not. So this is a good tool for you to assess how you're performing against the expected plan or expected roadmap. So in terms of financial aspects, how we're doing, what is the customer, what's the market share, what's the customer retention rate, what's the customer satisfaction rate, what's the kind of sales and revenue we're getting in from the loyal customers existing, what about the new customers, how many customers are we, what is the percentage of customers that we're going to acquire, an acquisition rate over the years, how much of, as we discussed yesterday, Kieran also was talking about how difficult it is to actually get new customers as compared to retaining the existing customers. So all those things come into picture with the customer aspect here. And then the learning and growth, what we're doing now is all about learning, right? We're trying to learn all these aspects of this so that it helps our career, it helps our thinking, broaden our thinking, our minds, and open up our eyes, ears, and mind to how we can look at things in a different way. So this learning that we've been happening in the last few weeks from September is actually kind of helping us develop as individuals, as more skilled professionals, right? So that's a continuous process. We didn't stop at one presentation, one session and say, okay, we are done, because the learning is never complete and finished. It's a continuous process, and the growth and learning is actually goes hand in glove. So we need to continue this, and that's why we have been having these regular sessions and developing from one aspect to another. This is incremental. It's growing from one angle to another. We are actually getting deeper and deeper into the real crux of how can be done, how can something be done, right? So we started off with estimation. Even this month, for example, we started off with estimation. We had an understanding of that. We did the prioritization from the estimates, and then today we're actually learning how can we set up the vision and the roadmap, a plan for how to deliver. And from the next few sessions, we're actually going to talk about the aspect of how we can achieve that using the requirements. How can we define the requirements? How can actually kind of deliver them? How can create wireframes? What's a data model? How can we develop? What's programming? All of that. So it's going to be deeper and deeper. It can't be just left at that level. So we need to go deeper and deeper and start aiding our own learning by implementation. So and the internal business processes are basically how we're going to structure our own ways of working to help our learning and growth and make sure all of these other aspects are covered. So again, that's something which we can improve by looking at things, studying the output of each of these processes. The input, SIPOX, for example, is a very good tool. Supplier, input, process, output, and the customer. So that's a good tool to understand the effectiveness of a business process. So all of these tools, actually, we can spend a little bit more time later I'll give an example of how I did this with one of the customers in detail. It would give you a clear idea as to how we can use the Balanced Business Scorecard to assess whether you're in the right track or not. So this is basically kind of analysis tool for the strategy, whether your strategy or vision, how good, how effective has it been in terms of implementing that. It's not just about defining the strategy, but it's about implementing that strategy and actually achieving that, right? So this is a good tool. The Balanced Business Scorecard is a great tool for assessing, analyzing the current situation, then making sure that we are readjusting our strategy. So use it very, 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 it's a very definitely a good, useful tool for all of us. And then again, on the back of it, we've had this discussion of the critical success factors and the key performance indicators and the performance targets. We've had a discussion on this already, but just want to quickly go through that so you are clear. So here we're talking about having the high level areas that you need to assess. So high level aligned to strategic goals, and then they're derived from the industry standards and the more overall perspective. And then you look at the priority. So improved customer retention rate could be one of the critical success factor, right? So how can you improve? How can you actually measure that improvement is basically the next level of detailing, which is the key performance indicator. So based on this one, you can actually kind of define your own key performance indicators. So they check how well the CSF, the critical success factors, are achieved. So that's the key performance indicators, right? So you need to identify, for example, the percentage of existing customers who do repeat purchases. That's a good way to understand your improved customer retention rate, right? And how do you do this? Percentage of existing customers is basically by looking at the performance targets, how well you have actually retained them. So they're the targets for specific areas. So you've got the current way of doing something, and then the projected or the estimated or the planned way of the figure. So basically, the figures, they're the measures and the metrics. They're actually things that you can measure. The rates, the ratios, the effort variance, the schedule variance, the productivity figures, for example. All of these are the measures and metrics. And the defect density, all of these are something that could be measured. So they're the performance targets. So here you can actually set yourself, how would you like to move from the current state? So you say 60% of sales revenues from the existing customers by this end of this year. So that's a performance target for you. And then you can actually get to see whether you're getting it or not, right? Because that's the only measure that by which you can actually assess whether your revenues had been in the line with the overall goals, which is basically the retention rate and then the improved customer retention rate. So this can only be achieved by following this and measuring this. And then if you've got this, then you can say that you've achieved it. So this is how you're actually getting into the details. You're not really talking high level. You're not talking in the air. You're actually talking sense. You're actually making sure that this is achieved or not achieved. This is the way that you can measure it. So very, very important for you to understand whether you're in the right direction in terms of a vision. Just having that fantastic vision, great idea is not great. It's about implementation of that, taking that step to go ahead, do the stuff, do the actual work, and then make sure that you deliver something. And then assess whether whatever you're delivered is in line with your plan, with your original idea or not. So that's where these tools would really help.